Many people love the glamour of wedding, but they hate the troubles of marriage. There's several people who love the adorable twins. They love the picture of the adorable twins, but they hate the pain of childbirth. Welcome once again to Faith Fridays. And today, Laddie is not around, so I'm standing in for her. After all, we are one, right? By the grace of God, we're talking about the fear of marriage today, the fear of marriage. And this is inspired by one of the subscribers who wanted her to do, something about the fear of marriage. So today, like I said, you're welcome to Faith Friday, and we still continue in the Wife in Wating series. So like I said, there are so many ladies who love the white wedding, but they hate to put in the work in the kitchen. There's several guys who also, love the suits and, all those glamour, but they hate to cope with the responsibility and pressure that marriage brings. And the fear of marriage is a valid fear. It's valid. There are so many people who are afraid of something before they do it. I think I used to be afraid of, marriage because of some of the things I've seen, some of the marriages I've seen, some of the, experiences I've had about marriage. There are people who are afraid, of driving. There are people who are afraid of, speaking. I remember as a pastor, I used to be very afraid of, standing before the crowd and, speaking. And I know at some point I discovered that it's a must do for me. So I develop a strategy, a principle where I'm able to cope with, speaking to large crowds without being intimidated, without being afraid. So how do we cope with the fear of marriage? How do we cope with the fear of marriage? Now, for instance, some of these fears are triggered by something. So the first thing you need to do is to identify what are those fears. What are those fears? What are the fears you have in marriage? For some people, maybe it's just a fear of childbirth. Some people are afraid of childbirth, and because of that, they don't want to get married. For some people, they are afraid, of sex. I mean, I know ladies who are afraid of sex. Because of that, they want to abstain from marriage. There are some people who are afraid of submission. They don't want to submit to anybody. They just want to be on their own. I mean, ladies who don't want to submit, who want to be career people, and they don't want anything to hold them down. Guys who don't want anybody to ask them, where are you going? When are you coming back? And for some people, it's the fear of in-laws. Many people have, having watched Nollywood movies, are afraid of in-laws. So because of some of these fears, they are afraid of marriage. So the first thing you need to do is to identify what are your fears, what are the things you are afraid of. Also, some people made a mistake of trying to replace their fear of marriage with something. So some people, because they don't want to get married, they try to satisfy their sexual urge, maybe through masturbation, porn, or different things. Some people, they try to replace their fear of marriage with single parenthood, adoption, and different things. But we need to first of all identify what is the God's will for marriage. And now I understand that there are many people who are afraid of marriage because of what they have seen. Maybe the kind of home they came from. Maybe the father and mother are always fighting. Maybe there is no peace in the home. Maybe there is no love in the house. So because of that, they are afraid of marriage. They don't want to get married. Some people, their father beats their moms. Because of all those things, they just hate the concept of marriage. So you hear things like women are necessary evil. That you've seen pastors who will tell you that, when they were still single, they were all out for God, but immediately they got married, they don't have time for God again. They were, things were going down for them. You hear things like it was because of Eve that, Adam fell. You hear things like it was Delilah that destroyed the ministry of Samson. So you hear some of these things and you begin to be afraid that, am I really sure that going to marriage will not destroy my career, will not destroy my ministry? So some of these fears valid. However, one of the things you need to begin to do is I think the first thing you need to do is to discover what is God's will for marriage. What is God's will for marriage? Because many of the marriages that we see out there are not the God. They are not the God ordained marriage. They are not the way their marriage works. It's not the way God wants marriage to work. And I want you to know that marriage is still God's good idea. It has not stopped from being God's good idea. So you need to discover what is God's will for marriage. What is the God kind of marriage? How does it look like? How does it look like? Now you need to know that no matter the fear of marriage that you have, if you have decided to go into marriage, to be married, then you have the opportunity to create the kind of marriage you want. Now, people don't end up bad in marriage because they just wanted to end up bad. Some of them were not intentional about it. So you need to be intentional about it. Somebody said that the best way to determine your future is to create it. So you need to create the kind of marriage you want to have. Not my parents' kinds of marriage, not this particular person kinds of marriage, but the God kind of marriage. So you need to first of all know what is God's kind of marriage. The marriage in Genesis chapter 2. What is the nature of God's kind of marriage? Number 2, you need to discover what is God's plan for marriage. What is God's plan for marriage? So number 3, you need to discover what is God's principle for marriage. What is God's principle for marriage? So these 3 things will help you to create the kind of marriage that you want to have. Not just the one you want to have, the one that God wants you to have. Now, for instance, majorly, the major reason why people fear marriage is because of their experiences. Because of their experiences, especially people who come out from broken homes, people that have their parents used to abuse each other. Those kind of people usually have the fear of marriage. But let me tell you something. For you to have a happy home, a happy marriage, there are 2 kinds of people you need to look out for, or 2 kinds of marriage you need to look out for. Those are going to be your model. And the number 1 is the marriages that will be your role model. The marriages that will be your role model. So you need to look out for marriages that are doing well. Now, it can't be that all the marriages around you are bad. It can't be. It can't be. Now, even if the ones around you don't dream to have those kind of marriage, then look for couples who are doing well. Now, if you want to look for that kind of home and you look around, you can't find, just come to my home. Come to my marriage. It's a marriage that when you see it, you know that, no, this is the kind of marriage that I want to have. So you need to look for a role model, a marriage that serves as a role model. Now, that kind of marriage will give you a picture of what marriage should look like. It will inspire you. It will motivate you to want to be married. Now, those kind of marriage they teach you what it means to be married and how you can have a happy home. So, and like for instance, when I was growing up, there's a particular couple that I used to admire so much that whenever I visit them, I just like the way they do things. I like the way they relate to their children. I like the way they carry everybody along, and I'm just so inspired. And I used to think that when I grow up, I want my marriage to be like this. I want my marriage to be like this. So I have a picture of the kind of marriage that I want. I have a picture of how I want my home to look like, how I want my wife to look like, how I want my children to look like, how I want to raise my kid. I have all those pictures in my head. Now, by the grace of God, I'm living some of those lives now. Now, there are some of those lives I've still not yet, I'm not yet living because it's a process. I'm growing. I'm not yet there, but I'm growing. I am not who I used to be. I stopped being someone. I'm becoming someone. The same thing with my wife. And I can tell you that I'm enjoying my home. I'm happy in my marriage. So you need to find a marriage that serves as a role model, that inspires you, that motivates you, that teaches you, that counsels you. Then number 2 model of marriage you need to find is the avoidance model. The avoidance model. So this is the kind of marriage you don't want to be like. This is the kind of home you don't want to have. Now, there are several, for instance, those kind of homes are common. They are common. They are around you. They are your neighbors. They are your friends. At times, they have broken homes. They are divorced. It's good to say, oh, they're not doing well, but there is something you can learn from them. There is something you can learn from them. Now, this kind of marriage are the kind of marriage that brings fear to you. So instead of those marriages bringing fear to you, they should actually teach you how not to behave in marriage, how not to walk in marriage, how not to love, how not to behave towards your wife, how not to be to talk, how not to raise children, how not to to beat your wife, how not to do all those things. So the avoidance kind of marriage, or the avoidance model of marriage, is the one that teaches you how not to do things. The avoidance model of marriage teaches you what not to do, while your role model teaches you what to do. Now, if you look critically, there's something you can learn in every marriage. No matter how bad that marriage is, it could serve as a way of avoiding some of the mistakes that they made. But at times, what you see is people replicating the mistakes that their parents made. It's easy to say, oh, I'm not going to be like my father. My father used to beat my mother. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be like that. But most times you see that guys whose father used to beat their mother ends up beating their wife, because somewhere in their heart that has been ingrained in their system. So you need to deliberately unlearn some things, avoid some things through bad marriages, and inculcate some things through good marriages. Lastly, how do you avoid the fear of marriage, or conquer the fear of marriage? Is to create in your imagination, in your mind, the kind of marriage that you want. Now, I need you to know that every marriage is unique. And even though you have a role model, you can set the pattern of your marriage exactly like that marriage, because yours is unique. For instance, you can see a home and say, oh, I love this man. I love the way the wife cooks for him. I love the woman. I love the way, the wife kneel down to serve him. Oh God, my wife will also kneel down to serve food, to me. But you need to understand that that's unique to their marriage. You need to also do something that is unique to your marriage. So instead of your own wife kneeling down to serve you, why don't you maybe give her a kiss serving you? So at the end of the day, when you meet the person that you want to marry, both of you have to create that home together in your mind. You need to imagine, you need to envision the kind of marriage that you want. The love for marriage must actually be stronger than your fear for marriage. If you will actually get married and excel in marriage, your love for marriage, and that your love for marriage will be created when you have a vision for marriage. When you have envisioned what happy homes means to you. So for some guy, happy home is like their wife being afraid of them, and the children running around, when they come back home. But for another person, a happy home is their wife running to meet them and giving them a kiss, their children running to meet them and giving them a kiss. That's a picture of happy home. You see, so especially for singles, when you meet the person you want to marry, please try to paint a picture of what happy home is for you, and see if that is the same thing it means for them. If your picture of happy home is not the same picture they have as a happy home, then run. Because whatever your fears are, they will always come to pass. Then lastly, let your faith be stronger than your fear. Let your faith be stronger than your fear. Now, your faith also works much as fear. What you fear, you attract. Also, what you have faith for, you attract. So instead of being afraid of bad marriage or ending bad in marriage, have faith that you will end well in marriage. There's this thing I used to tell all our parishioners, all our members. I used to tell them that it is too late for them to marry wrong. And I say it as a matter of confidence that I am so sure that if I know you, you know me, we talk to each other, then it is impossible for you to end up wrong in marriage. And that was deliberate. That action by itself kills fear. For me, at the time I was very, very afraid that, I was going to end up. And I met one of my mentors and I told him about the fear that, sir, I'm afraid of marriage and blah, blah, blah. And he said, he looked into my eyes and said, Juwon, you can never get it wrong in marriage. And it was as if something was impacted into me. And that really helped my faith. It boosted my faith. And so for everyone watching this video, for everyone joining this, this broadcast or this video, I want to categorically tell you that you can never end badly in marriage. You can never make a wrong decision in marriage. Your home, it's too late for your home to be bad, to be evil, for you to have a bad marriage. It's too late for you. And watching this video is one of the proofs that you will end well in marriage. So I want to pray with you that fear of marriage, whatever it is, that the Lord will give you the grace to conquer it. Whatever is the mountain that you're facing, the Lord will give you the faith to climb them, and that you will have success in your homes, in your marriage, in your career, and that every resources that you need to make your home, heaven on earth, better for best, that the Lord will give you in Jesus' name. Thank you for watching this episode. Until next time, keep being the best version of you. God bless you.